Happy Royal Rumble weekend, guys, and welcome back to the Random Video Blog, where every single Friday I, Graham G.S. Matthews, run down my rambling thoughts in the wrestling world, share a few stories, etc., etc. And of course, Royal Rumble weekend finally upon us. Last week, right here on the show, I talked about 5 people I wanted to see return at Raw 25, and it got me thinking, maybe I do a random video blog about people I want to see in the 2018 men's and women's Royal Rumble matches, but I feel like it'd be a similar list, and like I'd put Batista on both lists, or, whatever. I do have a few people I want to see in the Rumble matches this Sunday. I'll include that in this list, but overall, since I'll be at both the Rumble and NXT TakeOver, both in Philly this weekend, I figured it was only fitting that I did something similar to the random video blog that I did last year over WrestleMania weekend, which I was also in attendance for, with 5 things I want to see happen all weekend in Philly. This will also take into account the Raw, and I think SmackDown's in Philly too, after the Royal Rumble, neither of which I will be at. I will solely be at TakeOver and Rumble with Mr. Marceau, RJ this weekend. I could not be any more excited. But here are the 5 things I want to see happen at all 3 or 4 shows over the next few days. Starting with number 1. One thing I talked about a few weeks ago here in the random video blog of 7 things I wanted to see happen in WWE in 2018. One of them already happened. Ricochet is already signed with WWE, to no one's surprise. We all expected it was going to happen at some point. So that's already happened. Another thing I listed on that list that I'll put here as well, in the Royal Rumble match, I want to see the return of Rey Mysterio. The chances of it happening aren't too likely. I know WWE was reportedly in talks with Mysterio a few months ago. Talks fell through, unfortunately. If they're bringing him back to put on 205 Live, whatever. I think Mysterio can make it work because he's Rey fucking Mysterio. But the guy never really had a proper send-off. I talked about this when I talked about why I wanted him to return a few weeks ago here in the Random Video Blog and the 8 things I want to see happen in 2018. So the 7 things I want to see happen in WWE this year. So I don't really want to repeat myself, but for those of you that did not watch that video, I think he didn't really get a proper send-off from WWE the first time around. He left the company 3 years ago, or got released, whatever. Not because he didn't want to. He had been wanted to leave the company for a while. He had his last match the night after WrestleMania 30, losing to Bad News Barrett in a matter of minutes. He was in the 2014 Rumble match and got a major negative reaction from the Pittsburgh crowd, also in Pennsylvania. Though I do think if he was to resurface in the Rumble this Sunday, he'd get a big pop. People would love to see Rey Mysterio back. I, for one, loved his Lucha Underground run. Unfortunately, that appears to be done. I would rather not see him in Impact. I think talks are still happening between the two sides. That hasn't happened yet. I have no real interest in seeing that. But I do think seeing Rey Mysterio back in WWE for one more rightful, well-deserved run, I think would be great, starting with the Royal Rumble match. And if it's not even a run, and it's just a one-off, and he's mixing it up with fucking Kalisto and a few other people in the Rumble match, then whatever. I think it'd be great too. Coming in at number 2, what I would like to see this Saturday, tomorrow night at NXT TakeOver Philadelphia, Tommaso Ciampa screw over Johnny Gargano for the NXT Championship. Now, screw him out of the title, not screw him for the championship. Don't, get your mind out of the gutter here. With Gargano, I mean, I would love to see him win the championship. I'll be wearing my Johnny Gargano shirt, possibly. We'll see. Spoiler alert, maybe. But Johnny Gargano will be gunning for the gold this Saturday at NXT TakeOver. I would love to see it, though I do think a better story could be told with Ciampa coming out, screwing Gargano, and setting up that match between the former 2 DIY members for TakeOver New Orleans in a few more months. I'm not sure how far along Ciampa is in his recovery from his torn whatever it was from early 2017. But he should be far enough along where he can come out and do a run-in before returning to the ring in time for TakeOver in a few months. So I would love to see it. The crowd would go fucking nuts in both the pop and boos, and Gargano losing his championship match. So I'm hoping that's what happens. And if not, maybe Candice LeRae helps Gargano win the championship. That would be cool too. But I would rather see Ciampa screw Gargano out of the title, setting up their very much highly anticipated TakeOver New Orleans match in a few more months. Coming in at number 3 is something I would like to see happen in either Raw or SmackDown after the Rumble in Philly, which is why I include it in the Royal Rumble weekend video. The Authors of Pain officially get called up to either Raw or SmackDown, the main roster just in general. They have been main roster ready for quite some time now. I wrote an article about this for Hidden Remote a few days ago. But these guys should have been on Raw or SmackDown like after SummerSlam. I figured they would have gotten called up around the same time that Asuka and Bobby Roode did. The fact they didn't was fine. They were in the War Games main event. They went for the they're going for the tag team titles tomorrow night at TakeOver. They should not win. I don't think they will win. And once that's over and done with, we should see them resurface on Raw or SmackDown. I think Raw needs them more. The Raw tag team division is really lacking. They have the Bar, they have the Club, they have the Revival, and kind of Rollins and Jordan, even though they're not a long-term tag team. They need more tag teams. They need more fucking tag teams. Titus Worldwide, who cares? Rhino and Slater, who cares? Authors of Pain, I mean, I guess you can call them up as baby faces. I think as heels would be better. They have enough heel tag teams right now. Whatever, though. I think calling those guys up to Raw would be great. SmackDown would be fine, too. Authors of Pain versus Bludgeon Brothers. Sign me up. That could be a lot of fun, too. But these guys belong on the main roster right after the Rumble, because they're not going to stay in NXT after losing their tag team title match tomorrow night. I guess they could follow in the footsteps of the Revival and become two-time tag team champions, but really, what's the point of that? I would much rather just see them go to the main roster, do their thing over there. Maybe they link up with Samoa Joe, or feud with Roman Reigns, or both. Or maybe link up with Roman Reigns as a heel faction. Not going to happen, but it would be cool. But, yeah. So I would love to see the Authors of Pain get called up to the main roster, the grand stage, right after the Rumble this coming week, a la Samoa Joe last year. Coming in at number 4, another thing I would love to see this weekend, of the Royal Rumble weekend, that is, Cedric Alexander winning the Cruiserweight Championship at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. He's had his shots before. He's come up short in every single occasion. This should be his time. Now, credit where credit is due. Enzo has done well with what he's been given, and he's much more comfortable in the heel role than he was as a babyface, where he always came off as obnoxious and detestable. And he was great with Cass early on, but when they got called up to the main roster, it was like pretty much all downhill after like the summer of 2016 for these guys. Enzo, though, has done a good job as the heel Cruiserweight champ, but in the ring, he fucking sucks. He's not doing the division any favors. I'm not saying that 205 Live would see a surge in viewership if Alexander won the championship, but you know what? The guy deserves it. He's a great wrestler, and hopefully you can build to an Alexander Ibushi match. Not Ibushi, that'd be sick too. But, oh my god, could you imagine an Alexander Ibushi rematch in the Cruiserweight Classic at WrestleMania for that championship? That would be fucking amazing. But I'm sure Ibushi wants nothing to do with the Cruiserweight division. Anyway, I was going to say, Alexander and Hideo Itami for the title at WrestleMania. Or, again, Ricochet, I don't really want to see him on 205 Live. Rey Mysterio, Alexander, Rey Mysterio match that RJ, shout out to him, pitched for WrestleMania 33 in late 2016. Obviously didn't happen. But I would love to see that. So I think putting the belt on Alexander is for the best. The guy deserves it, and it's his time to shine. Coming in at number 5, probably the least likeliest thing to happen. Actually, I don't know about the least likeliest. I think Rey Mysterio showing up might be the least likely. But there's still a chance that this could happen. Coming in at number 5, and probably what I want to see more than anything else, the things I want to see happen this weekend of the Royal Rumble in Philly, is Ethan Carter III showing up and debuting in WWE. Now, in what capacity? I'm not sure. We could see him in the crowd on Saturday at TakeOver. I would hope to see Ricochet and War Machine and Candice in the crowd. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. Would be cool. Seeing EC3 in the crowd would be fucking cool. I was there when Drew McIntyre showed up in the crowd at TakeOver Orlando. No one expected that. That was fucking awesome. That was probably the highlight of my night, seeing McIntyre in the crowd that night, the show that I went to at TakeOver Orlando last April. EC3, though, I think would get a big pop. I know people, if you don't watch TNA, then you might not know who he is, but the former Derek Bateman, he was in NXT for a while. Many people did not watch NXT when he was on the show. It was before it kind of got revamped into what it is today. The guy got cut for the company 5 years ago as a developmental talent. And, you know, he's since obviously experienced this career resurgence as Ethan Carter III in TNA. And Impact and TNA, GFW, whatever, give them all the shit you want, but they did a great job with EC3. An awesome job in making this guy a star, making him undefeated for like 2.5 fucking years, something crazy like that. 2-time world champion, former Impact Grand Champion. Not like that means anything anyway. But the guy had a great run over in TNA for the past 5 years. Recently left. Been a lot of rumors about his Royal Rumble status. Will he show up in NXT on the main roster? I think EC3 would be better suited in NXT right now, but there's so much talent there right now that I feel like he'd be lost in the shuffle. I think he'd be perfect on SmackDown right now, as other people have brought up. Having him align with Daniel Bryan, his former pro from NXT, as to kind of help him combat Shane McMahon. That would be fucking amazing. So that's why I'm putting EC3 debuting in WWE this weekend, because I'm not sure if it's going to be at NXT in the Rumble match, which I think would be it would make for a great reaction, because Philly would obviously know who he is, or at least most of the crowd anyway. Or if it's in another match on the show, or on Raw or SmackDown the coming week. I don't really know. But I think he'd make a huge impact if he was to debut in the Rumble match, or as part of the WWE Championship match in some form or fashion. Either way, the guy is WWE bound. EC3 is WWE bound, as is Lashley. If it's not EC3, Lashley showing up this Sunday, I think would also be great, or any point this weekend. 10 years after his release from the company would be pretty cool to see Lashley back in WWE. And EC3's been gone for 5 years now, so both would be great assets to either the NXT or WWE main roster, the WWE rosters, whatever. I think EC3, again, like I said, would be better off in NXT. A lot of talent there right now. Would he do well? I don't know. The main roster, there might be a higher chance of that, honestly. Lashley should be in the main roster. Lashley's more of a question mark, because I think his contract expires February 1st. Obviously, the Rumble is before February 1st, so I don't think it's going to happen. He might be back, I don't know, at some point in the next month or two, if not like after WrestleMania. But I am salivating at the idea, at the thought of a Brock Lesnar-Lashley match, if we can get that match before Brock probably leaves. So anyway, guys, I'm getting off track here. Those are the 5 things I want to see happen this weekend in Philly, from TakeOver to Royal Rumble to Raw and SmackDown. Once again, 5 things I want to see happen. Rey Mysterio returning in the Royal Rumble match. Number 2, Tommaso Ciampa screwing Johnny Gargano out of the NXT Championship at TakeOver. Number 3, Authors of Pain getting called up to the main roster. Number 4, Cedric Alexander winning the Cruiserweight Championship. And number 5, the WWE debut of Ethan Carter III, Derek Bateman, whatever the fuck they want to call him, or Lashley. So those are the things I want to see happen this weekend, guys. What are you most excited to see this weekend of the Royal Rumble? Is it TakeOver, Rumble, Raw, SmackDown, something else you'll be attending in the area? Let me know. I will be there at both TakeOver and Rumble with the one and only Mr. Marceau RJ. Very much looking forward to it. So be sure to drop a comment down below with your expectations for the weekend, or tweet me on Twitter, or find me on Facebook. Either one works. All the links are in the description box down below. I'll be back next Friday, probably with a random video blog of sorts, discussing my experience over Royal Rumble weekend in Philly. So all that being said, guys, enjoy Royal Rumble weekend. It looks like it's going to be amazing. I am super psyched, to say the least, and I'll catch your ass down the road.